You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. We've got a great show today. Ellen Bravo, the expert on workplace issues and a recidivist guest, is back again, this time to bring us up to speed on paid leave and the progress it's making. Then we get to hear how women are going back to the kitchen, but this time getting paid for it, and highly. Women chefs. Last, like many other former desperate housewives, we hear from a guest who left and exploded into a whirl of principled activism, especially on behalf of her sister Latinas. Actor and lots more, Eva Longoria. But first, we need to look inside the headlines. The headlines? Yes, of course, this is about France. First, there's no justification in any sane mind for the ghastly attack against the staff of the cartoon magazine Charlie Hebdo, and especially against those hapless citizens shopping in the kosher supermarket. But the debate that this horror has inspired is important. Were the magazine editors free speech martyrs or aggressive provocateurs whose so-called satire was not very thinly burqa'd racism? France has a history of restrictions on speech, from the Louis through Robespierre, from the arrest of Tom Paine to Napoleon to the Nazis. That, in turn, has inspired a seeming obsession with violating all rules. Nevertheless, it is illegal in France to deny, in speech or writing, that the Holocaust took place. Furthermore, until relatively recently, the French have inhabited a homogeneous nation, keeping the colonials safely away in resource-plundered colonies. Now the French are in xenophobic shock that the colonials have actually dared come to them, in France. Merde. In the United States, with a more diverse population from the first, thanks to conquest, enslavement, and both forced and willing immigration, we have by now at least learned some sensitivity about racial and ethnic stereotypes and caricatures, learned it the hard way. In other words, when is free speech hate speech? Personally, I value free speech too much to be a free speech absolutist. Neither were the framers of the Constitution, by the way, and neither was U.S. Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes when he wrote, though not as binding law, that shouting fire unnecessarily in a crowded theater was not First Amendment protected. Why? Because it could get people killed. The French murders were precipitated by Charlie Hebdo running a cartoon by its now late editor, depicting a hideous, cross-eyed, bearded, turbaned man brandishing a rifle, saying, "What? No attacks on France yet? Wait, we have until the end of January." Now, published in a periodical that had been threatened and firebombed so often the state provided it with guards, that almost invitational cartoon is crying fire in a crowded theater. And it got people killed. This is not to say that it was the cartoonists' fault they were murdered, but it is to say that the all-white, almost all-male editorial staff, one woman was present, also killed, was so busy indulging their own worldview and adolescent definition of humor, and so busy crowing that they skewered everyone, they didn't notice that they hadn't included skewering a white male perception of reality, hadn't included the notion that mocking the powerful was what real satire is about. Although the cheap shot in making fun of the powerless echoes from a cruel, well-worn tradition. Nazi anti-Semitic cartoons, Ku Klux Klan racist caricatures, lampoons of dumb Mexicans, cunning Asians, alcoholic Irish, gangster Italians, and of course the cross-cultural anytime, every place stereotypes of women. The big-bosomed dumb farmer's daughter, warty old witch, prissy schoolmarm, domineering wife, insatiable femme fatale. Charlie Hebdo had a sexist and homophobic reputation, too, priding itself on caricatures of feminists, of course, not unlike the work of R. Crumb and the soft and sometimes hard-core porn produced for the so-called underground comics in the 1970s. Tom Spurgeon of the Comics Reporter website was quoted in the New York Times saying that Charlie Hebdo had a more savage, doing it for the sake of doing it spirit than U.S. cartoonists who share a now sophisticated dialogue about the effects of privilege, and that you don't need to insult downtrodden people to make your points. He also sees a divide in generations, with younger cartoonists recognizing that the idea that putting the grossest, most offensive things you can on paper is itself somehow a brave, patriotic act, that isn't enough anymore. Nor is it funny, I'd say. Although, hey, it's just a joke, can't you take a joke, is always the last refuge of the entitled scoundrel. No, a people in pain have difficulty getting the joke, especially when the joke is made by the people who put them in pain. It's also really hard to get the joke when you're dead. How long will we indulge a privileged, sophomoric, boyish outrageousness that wants to give deliberate offense? How long will we mistake it for satire? Satire is a form of literature, of political protest, of wit, for God's sake. Alexander Pope wrote satire, Jonathan Swift wrote satire, Mark Twain and Dorothy Parker and Molly Ivins and Jane Wagner wrote satire. James Thurber and Nicole Hollander drew satire. Whoopi Goldberg and Stephen Colbert perform satire. These are examples of the values that free speech is designed to protect. And here's the heart of the matter. Vigorously defending racist inanities is analogous to defending corporations making limitless campaign contributions. Both are speech, but both squander the right originally meant to protect serious political dissent by the citizen against the government. That's what inspired the First Amendment to begin with. Millions of people marched and movingly declared themselves Charlie, for a confusion of reasons, I think, mostly good-hearted sentimentality, a lot of abstractions, unity, free speech, down with terrorism, also guilt for French anti-Semitism going back to Dreyfus, and anger at being made afraid, a new omnipresent fear, what the disenfranchised experience lifelong as everyday normalcy. Will that many people ever march for immigrants' rights? There's one more factor, a central one I explored in my book, The Demon Lover. It's the left-right circular dominoes game that the Charlie Hebdo guys, all regarding themselves as leftists, played with the assassins. The former provoked the latter. It's a dare. It's exciting. It's something tough guys do. And it sells papers. The assassins, real tough guys competing to be even tougher, strike back, in turn provoking the ultra-right, which gains followers in, you bet, anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim, anti-dark-skinned people campaigns. Who in hell, for this is hell, benefits from this contest in provocative manhood, which is what at heart this is? Certainly the pious killers, trained not just in Yemen but by poverty, ghettos, crime, drugs, and jail, found their manhood in an extremist version of religion, reliably complete with misogyny. One of the Kouachi brothers, Sharif, refused to rise and stand for the judge when he was sentenced to prison because, he told his lawyer, the judge was female. As for Amedi Coulibaly, he dragged along Hayat Boumediene, the loyal young woman in love with him, from the days when, dealing drugs, he demanded she wear bikinis, to the days when, post-prison, he demanded she wear the full hijab. Now she's fled to Syria. What non-paradise awaits her there, we are mercifully spared knowing. Meanwhile, the headlines cover the funerals. The heads of state have staged their appearances and departed, returning to countries where it is also a crime to deny the Holocaust, the past. But not to deny the present, to burn down Roma encampments, desecrate both Jewish cemeteries and mosques, and pay pimps to buy sex with 12-year-old little girls. Clearly, suffering must take place on an epic scale for it to be sufficiently noticed, much less satirized. For myself, je ne sais, mais je sais, je ne suis pas Charlie. And now it's time for our first guest, a returnee to the program, Ellen Bravo, who is a longtime activist and expert on women in the workforce. She started working for 9 to 5, the National Association of Working Women, in 1982, and she now directs Family Values at Work Consortium, a network of state coalitions working for paid sick days and paid family leave. Very important issues, and here she is. Ellen, welcome back to the program.
My pleasure. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks so much.
Well, you're always so interesting, and you keep us up to date on women and work in a way that nobody else does. Today, update us on the state of paid leave around the country, because it's not what it should be.
Well, here's the good news. In the midst of all the gloomy election outcomes, we were 4 for 4. We had ballot initiatives in 4 locations: the state of Massachusetts, 2 cities in New Jersey, the city of Oakland, and they all passed overwhelmingly. And they came on the heels of a big string of legislative wins. In fact, 5 times as many people in just this year will have won access to paid sick days as in all the previous 10 years of our campaign.
Oh, that is terrific. That's terrific.
Yeah, we're really thrilled about that. And these are really, these are all, our network, Family Values at Work, is coalitions in 21 states. They're all very local, very grounded, very diverse. They bring together people who care about women, obviously, and families, but seniors and people who care about children and ending poverty, and people who want same-sex couples not just to be able to marry, but to be able to care for each other in sickness as in health, and people who want to end domestic violence and public health folks. So it's really exciting to see the breadth and diversity. But so here these local campaigns come together and realize they're part of a national movement. And for me, the most exciting thing is you see folks, this happens over and over, women in some crummy low-wage job, sucks it up when she's sick, but when it's her kid, she stays home, and then she gets told, you're a bad employee for being a good mother, and winds up either getting docked her pay or losing her job.
It's vicious.
And then gets in this vicious cycle of not being able to get out of getting to get to a good job, because you start looking like you have a spotty work record, and then you start being in debt and getting bad credit. Then someone running for president tells you you're a bad mother because you don't make your kid a brown bag lunch.
Yeah.
Never mind that you can't afford the lunch meat or the bag, right? So we're really excited to see the power these women feel when they realize, hey, I'm not all by myself out here. And it's not, there is something we can do, and I can be part of it.
Yeah.
We can be the agents of change.
It's what I call the you too effect, and the I'm not alone, I'm not crazy,
Yes,
There's
exactly.
nothing like it. Go on.
Well, so that's it. So we're looking for another string of wins this coming up. Tacoma, Washington, Philadelphia, Chicago, maybe the state of Vermont, the state of Oregon, and a bunch of other places are going to win this year. And we're also seeing movement on paid family leave. So in New York State, the slogan is New York is next. Last year, Rhode Island became the 3rd state with a family medical leave insurance fund. This is where people pay very small amounts. It's like an insurance pool,
right?
So that you can draw a good portion of your wages while you're out having a baby or taking care of a dad who had a stroke, or a partner with a heart attack. And so it's insane. We're the only country in the industrialized world,
I know.
In fact, practically the only country anywhere that doesn't have this. And there was this great story last June. The White House had a huge summit on working families, and President Obama got to speak. The First Lady spoke, the Vice President spoke, his wife spoke, the Secretary of Labor spoke. I mean, it was a really big deal. And we heard that the president was, when they prepared his remarks, was shocked to see how bad it is.
Yeah.
I mean, he knew it was bad, but he didn't realize we were at the absolute bottom. He made them fact check it twice. And I had the honor of speaking after he did. And a couple days later, I did an interview on MSNBC, and I had to go to this NBC station to do it. And when I walked in, the receptionist was watching a clip of my little speech. And she said, those people you talked about, because I mentioned a number of them, where'd they live? Where were they from? And I said, well, all over, Denver, Chicago, North Carolina. And she said, her mouth fell open. She said, I meant, what country are they from? Do you mean this happens in the United States? So I feel like we have this mix of people who have no clue how bad it is.
Yeah.
That, it was more than 40% of the workforce. I'm happy to say it's now down to a third, but still huge amounts. And when you talk about low-wage workers, we're talking 75 to 80% who don't get a single paid sick day.
Right.
There's people who just don't know it, and then there's, of course, the people who live it, who feel completely invisible, that nobody sees or hears them. And
they are.
That's what this movement is changing.
They are, in effect. I mean, and that's what you're changing. And the basic education even needs to be done. You have to educate before you can change it, and you're doing both at the same time, which is quite a feat.
And that's what's really exciting. And let me tell you, one of the things that's so great is that we're breaking what I call the identity theft of these corporate lobbyists who say, I am the business community, and claim to speak for all employers. And every one of our coalitions has business partners who understand that you can run a business without exploiting your workers, and that, in fact, investing in workers is a better model.
Yeah.
It's not a favor to women. It's a better way to do things. And so they say, hey, those lobbyists don't speak for me. I'm the business community, and I already do this because it's the smart as well as the right thing to do, and I want everyone to do it because you know what? Other employers' workers are my customers, and they need to have money in their pocket.
Right.
Or they won't come to my jazz club or my laundromat or my car repair place.
Right. There's a real disconnect in the message that our adversaries send, which is that to do any of these things, hurts the economy, costs money. Because, I mean, if there were, for example, you know this better than I, if there were equal pay for equal work for women, that in itself would do more to righting the economy than any other single factor, because women spend money on their children, on themselves, on their families. I mean, all of these things are, rather than being not effective, are in fact deeply cost effective. You've just given another example.
They're exactly what the economy needs. And you know what else is really exciting is to see so many men who say, I want to be a good father or a good son, a good husband, and I need these policies. I need not to be punished at work for doing that. And women, this is exactly what we need, is for men to step up and share caregiving. In Iceland, you know this? Yeah. They have a 332 policy, and it's soon going to, 333 policy, it's soon going to be 552. So each parent, and I'm pretty sure this is true for same-sex parents as well, each parent gets 3 months paid leave, and they can't share it. They have to each take it, and then there's 3 months that they can share, and that's going to change to 5 months for each parent and 2 months that they can share. And you know what? In heterosexual families, 2 years in, 70% of the child care is shared equally by men and women.
In Iceland. That's fantastic. Yeah. That's really changing, a deep changing a social pattern.
More and more, we're both creating legislative champions and also sending a message. So smart politicians are realizing these issues pull off the charts across all demographics and across all political views. If you and certain contests are showing, if you stand for this, you have a better chance of winning, and we will take you out if you don't.
That's great.
So pay attention. But I think there are also more champions who realize, and often it's because a daughter or daughter-in-law runs into it if they're a man, but sometimes it's because they themselves have a parent who needs care, and they're sharing in that care. and they realize, what do people do who don't have the support that I do?
That's right. And they may finally connect the dots. Oh, this is such important work that you do, Ellen. If people want more information, give the website where they can get it.
So familyvaluesatwork, one word.org is the website. Facebook page, the same, Family Values at Work. We'd love to have your support in the following ways. One, to have you plug into the campaigns that are happening all over the country. And if you live in a place where there isn't a campaign, there are federal bills that need your story, your voice. And then, of course, we always need resources. Every penny we raise goes to the groups on the ground that are doing the work. We so would welcome the support of your listeners.
You are fantastic, and I'm sure you have it. And you certainly have mine. Oh, bless you, dear Ellen Bravo, for everything you do, and you are aptly named the Bravo part. And thank
you so much.
Thank you for being with us on Women's Media Center Live. Keep up the great work.
Yeah, I love it that you have this resource. What a great gift to the women's movement. Take good care, Robin.
It's time for a short break. This is Women's Media Center Live, and I'm Robin Morgan, but you know what you're listening to, and yet still I have to say that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about women chefs. What a delicious subject.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome back to a bit of a feast. The current issue of Food and Wine magazine is dedicated entirely to women chefs and their mentors. And Dana Cowin, who is the editor-in-chief, is here to talk about it, together with Beverly Wettenstein, who is a journalist, a women's advocate, and a women's historian, and who has published an annual status report on women chefs and women restaurateurs for more than a decade. So here they are. Beverly and Dana, welcome to Women's Media Center Live.
Thank you. So happy to be with you.
Well, I'm looking at a copy of Food and Wine, the January issue, and it's so luscious. My mouth is watering. It's soon I will not fit through doors just from looking at this issue. Let me start with you, Beverly. You've written the piece on women chefs for quite a long time, haven't you?
Yes, for more than a decade, I've been I write about women chefs, an annual status report, and one of the highlights is that I mention the annual Food and Wine Best New Chefs list, which is about chefs who have had less than 5 years experience heading a professional kitchen. And my critique has been that often there were very few women. In fact, only 43 women of the 262 best new chefs, or less than 16%, have made the list since it was launched in 1988. Mm-hmm. And for 7 years, there was one woman, none in 2003, and 2 women were named this year. So I applaud Dana immensely when she called to tell me the fabulous news that she was going to dedicate the January issue to women in the food industry.
Yes. Yay, Dana. I mean, this is very exciting. For years, as the women's movement has wondered, certainly I have, why in hell, how come was it that women cook all the time, 3 meals a day? It's just taken that somehow we were born to do this. But when it's professional, when it gets paid, when it has prestige, suddenly it was only boys, because I remember a time when chef was almost synonymous with male. And then there began to be the incursion, thank the goddess, of the Julia Childs and the Alice Waters and, and so forth, and the great cookbook writers like M.K. Fisher. But now women chefs are beginning to be the vogue, or am I being too optimistic?
This is Dana. I think it's not a question of women chefs being the vogue, but I think that women have decided that they want to become chefs, that they want to work those hours, that they want to be in the kitchen, and that they want to shine and get attention for it. And I think that it's a very complex topic, why there are so few women chefs who are visible, because there are definitely women in the food service industry.
Sure.
Now we just need to shine the light on the super talented ones, of which there are many.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons at Food and Wine that we last year had 2 women who were Best New Chefs is because there are more women who are deciding to pursue a more adventurous kind of cooking, a cooking that pushes the boundaries and pushes the rules. What I've seen historically at Food and Wine is the women who cook had tended to be at fantastic neighborhood spots that maybe wouldn't be on the national stage for awards, and that is where the recognition divide comes in, I think.
Interesting. Also, I would imagine it's sort of comparable to women directors, where if your women directors are making huge headway in documentaries, but big budget films not so much, features, because they require greater investment, and a lot of the name male chefs on television and writing books and so forth own their own restaurants. So, and women always have a harder time getting financing. So I wondered if that was another element in their being lesser known on a national scale. Although, thanks to you, that's going to be changing.
I'm looking forward to making more women visible, but I think that the challenge that you mentioned is absolutely 100% correct, that women have a hard time getting financing for their restaurants and their dreams, and that does make them less visible. The women that I'm seeing now who I'm encouraged by are the ones who are chef de cuisines, often at a man's restaurant. And I think in the next few years, we're going to see that change as the women who have the recognition as spectacular chef de cuisine then will be able to get the financing with the backing of either their mentor or with the appreciation that they've gotten in the media. So I think we're about to see a really big change in the next 5 years.
You've seen that change as well, Beverly, the slow upward curve that we hope will become exponential.
Yes, what I wanted to emphasize and what's highlighted in the magazine is the importance of mentoring. Mm-hmm. And I want to say the reason that I focus on the Best New Chef list is that is kind of the ticket to going on to greater recognition. For example, this year Nancy Silverton was the James Beard, which is the Oscars of the food industry. She was the winner of the Outstanding Chef, and she had been a Food and Wine Best New Chef winner in 1990. She also was the first woman to win the James Beard Outstanding Pastry Chef the next year in 1991. And in this year, she became the 4th woman in its 24-year history to be named the James Beard Outstanding Chef. She's the only person, male or female, to win Outstanding Pastry Chef and Outstanding Chef awards. So Dana's in a very significant position to recognize women on the way up and on the path to becoming a top cook.
That's terrific. That makes all the difference. I'm glad you raised the mentoring thing, because I was very moved by that section of the magazine, the mentor effect. And I noticed, because women hadn't had mentors in many areas, in many careers, and this apparently was one of them for a long time, but I noticed how interestingly, although there were some chefs who had mentored, there was a lot of grandmother and aunt and mother, and that was very touching to me, because these are women who took family inspiration and went into the public arena with it and became chefs. That was a lovely theme.
Yes, in the January issue of Food and Wine, we highlight women and their mentors. And as you say, sometimes the mentor is in the family, but sometimes it's something as simple as a book changing your life.
Yes.
And so sometimes the mentor can be someone you haven't even met, but you just, admire the way that they've lived their life, or the way that they cook inspires you. Or it could be someone for whom you've worked, like April Bloomfield calling out Ruthie Rogers,
right,
and saying, she really changed my life. And the beauty, I think, of the mentors is that someone like Ruthie Rogers will say about April Bloomfield, the chef of the Spotted Pig and more, she inspires me every day. So
yeah, it's
women
lovely.
see it as a two-way street.
And the Lisa Donovan story about being so down and out and reading MFK Fisher and her whole life opened up. That's one of the ones that in which a book was the mentor, you know.
This is Beverly. I just wanted to add on the subject of mentors.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times women especially have to seek their mentors and form their own network. And I just wanted to mention that Women Chefs and Restaurateurs, which is an industry organization to support women professionally, will hold its 22nd annual national conference in New York City, April 19 through 20. And your listeners can get information on their website, which is www.womenchefs.org.
Thank you both really for doing this and for doing this wonderful issue of Food and Wine, the January 2015 issue.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now it's time for the Surrealism Corner. Woo! There are two items we have to deal with today, one of which is based on a scholarly development. I want to tell you about the groundbreaking Voices of Diversity project that was funded by the Kellogg Foundation and was inspired by Julian Bond and Drs. Henry Louis Gates, Jr. of Harvard and Michael Nettles of Educational Testing Service. They were the principal investigators, and Paula Kaplan was the project director. The findings are rich and deep and in many ways quite devastating and surreal, revealing the ongoing racism and sexism on historically white college campuses. But happily, the study also led to a vast array of highly specific, sometimes unique avenues for improvement. The qualitative nature of the study elicited important responses, and the students' description of the treatment on their campuses that is upsetting will, in fact, break your heart. Certainly did mine. So much more powerful than questionnaire reports or rating scales. The section where they describe actions taken as a result of the study, especially by Missouri State University, are inspiring. Particularly their post-Ferguson steps. But the surreal part, or we could name it the haven't we been here before department, is in one of the most striking findings, devastating but certainly resonating with women's experience. Despite the far higher rate of reports in the study of harassment and violence against women than race-based harassment and violence, the participants were more likely to consider the race-based rather than the sex-based actions to be serious problems, sometimes saying things such as that sex-based ones are just normal, just part of life. Surrealism, and we've been here before. The other we've been here before is our friend George Zimmerman. You remember George, who of course is in trouble again. You've seen it perhaps in the news, for assaulting his current girlfriend, as he did his former girlfriends and his wife. She moved for a protective order against him and his attorney. This time he was actually arrested and arraigned. Whoop-de-doo. His lawyer, however, was quoted in the news as saying, "George hasn't been lucky with the ladies." This was, of course, a canaries in the mine situation. If he had been dealt with, sentenced, analyzed psychologically, whatever, and the many times that he had been arrested for assaulting women, Trayvor Martin might be alive to this day. But hey, we're in the Surrealism Corner, and for a change, we're in the United States, not Saudi Arabia. Question: can you tell the difference? It's break time again. This is Women's Media Center Live, and I'm Robin Morgan. And when we come back, we will be speaking with the most politically active, probably the busiest former desperate housewife alive, Eva Longoria.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
And we're back again. Most people know Eva Longoria as an actor, but she's an activist on behalf of Latina rights and empowerment, and she's an extremely busy one. We caught up with her, but she was on her cell phone, so be patient with the now and then flirtation of a garble. Eva, welcome to Women's Media Center Live. It's good to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. I am excited to talk to you.
You not only are the executive producer of Devious Maze, which is the first show in history to cast 5 female Latinas as lead characters on a TV series, but there's so many other things. You were the executive producer of the documentaries Harvest and Food Chains, which were about farm workers and were brilliant. And you're currently working on your 3rd documentary, Our Time, on the power of the Latino vote. And you've established a foundation, the Eva Longoria Foundation, helping Latinas build futures for themselves in education and entrepreneurship. And you're a founder of the Latino Victory Project. And there's many more things, including 2 fragrances out there and a cookbook. And, oh my God, you recently nailed your master's degree in Chicano Studies with a thesis called The Value of Latinas in STEM Careers. Do you ever sleep, or have you just given that up?
Let me tell you, that's probably the greatest luxury in my life is sleep. God, well, when you list it all like that in a row, it does sound like a lot.
I've left a lot out.
Well, my day job, which is acting, I have purposely, after Desperate Housewives ended, took about 3 years off to focus on my political activism and my philanthropy. And so right after Housewives, it was 2012, which we're, neck deep into this presidential campaigns, and I was a co-chair of the presidential campaign, and going all over the country, going mostly to swing states, talking to voters, educating voters, getting a voter plan, voter engagement. I mean, it was a lot of stuff. At the same time, I was finishing my thesis for my master's degree. But, I always tell people, you have more time than you think. And I remember signing up for my master's during Desperate Housewives. I was going to night school, so I would shoot all day, and then I would go to night school at night on Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And I just signed up. I just said, I want to get my master's. I've always wanted to go back and get my master's. I want to do it in this. And I just signed up. And once I signed up,
you were stuck.
I was stuck, and you had to finish it. You have to finish it. And so that's often what I do is I jump in knowing there's no turning back because I really want to do this. And if you really put your heart and your discipline into it, it gets done. You find a way.
Well, what I find most interesting about a lot of stars do have causes, and they're all over the map sometimes. But there is this really rich and meaningful consistency in the work that you do in front of the camera, affirming Latina culture, affirming the Latina in particular, and the work that you do now behind the camera. And I want to talk about that consistency because I think it's fairly rare. And also the quality as well as the quantity is stunning. Tell us a little bit about the foundation.
Yes, well, that is strategic and purposeful because I found early on that I was getting about 100 invitations a week to save the dolphins in Japan and AIDS in Africa and sex trafficking in Thailand, and
right.
And all of those are very important. Everything is very important, but I thought, God, I can do anything. I just can't do everything. Mm-hmm. And I looked at what Bono had done with AIDS in Africa, mm-hmm. and how specific he was and how much change he has created.
Focus, the
for
focus.
That, yeah, you have to focus. And I said, I got to pick something narrow because I want to create not only change, but sustainable change, long-term change. And I wanted to be effective with my time and efficient and effective because I had so little time in those moments when I started the foundation to do everything. And I didn't want to be on a red carpet every night and wondering, looking back at the red carpet backdrop going, I really support, and then going, AIDS in Africa, it's like I really wanted to be literate on what I was talking about. I wanted to be an expert at a specific field that I was interested in and had a passion about. And that's how I started the Eva Longoria Foundation was, what area do I want to have an effect in? And I chose education because if in any culture, in any country, in any economic system, the only way to economic mobility is through education.
It's the
key.
key.
Look at the cycle of poverty. It's key, and it's also you can intervene at any point in your life. I mean, it's been proven early education is obviously the best intervention.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get kids early, but like if you're me at 40 and you go, I want to go back to school, you can do that. So education is one intervention in the cycle of poverty that can happen throughout your life, and you can create that change at any time. And I thought that's key for me. So
and how does it work? Does the foundation give scholarships to women? How does it function?
No, we have two arms: the educational side, and then we have an entrepreneurial side. The educational side is we look at current programs. I fund programs.
I see.
So I give money to programs that are working. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes celebrities do, or anybody does actually, go and create a charity and they're trying to reinvent the wheel when there are some amazing organizations doing some very focused things.
You're right.
I look for very fiscally responsible programs where 100% of the money is going to the people we're trying to help.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondly, I look for measurability of success and tracking.
Mm-hmm.
Is this program creating results? And so one of the first programs we decided to fund on the educational side, before we did anything, I funded a study from UCLA, and I went to UCLA and I said, I want to know the common denominators of successful Latinas in the educational process, the ones who have a degree, the ones who have made it to the Ivy League. The ones
Interesting.
Who are, what do they have in common? And so I look at not the deficit model. I look at we know the barriers.
That's so interesting and creative because usually nobody studies the successes in a discriminated against community. So this is a very very innovative.
What's working? I know what's failing.
Right.
I know the barriers, whether it's language or socioeconomic status or
whatever
poverty, whatever it is. We know that. But for me, I did the study first, and they said the number one thing that all these women had in common was an engaged parent. And I thought, and I said, interesting. We know that. We know parental engagement in educational processes is important,
right.
but not the key. I mean, the key is. So I went at search of current programs that were working, and found this one program called PIQE, which is parental. PIQE, Parents Institution for Quality Education. So it was a course that parents took. And so it wasn't the child, which is interesting because if you think of your end user, who's the end user? It's the parent. I mean, the child you want to get to college, but we need to get to the parents because they're with them daily. And so there's a 6-week program, and I started to fund 1 school, then I funded 3 schools, and then I funded 8 schools, and now we have thousands of families that we have affected because of this program that the Eva Longoria Foundation funds. And it's effective, like I said, it's effective, it's focused, it's specific, and it's measurable because 95% of the kids whose parents took this class are going to college. And that's
huge.
Rate from a
That's
huge. From a
huge.
50% dropout to everybody's going to college. It was huge. And so that's one thing we started. The other thing, the second finding we had was that everybody was engaged in an after-school program, whether it was band or math club, or it really didn't matter what it was. It was the fact that kids were staying longer at school and felt part of something. And so we looked at after-school programs all over the country to go, which ones are working? And because I'm really focused in the STEM field, I said, that's what I want to fund. And there's amazing math clubs and all these amazing programs everywhere that are doing great, great, great things. And so we fund a little bit in Texas, a little bit in California, and we're in the process of measuring the success rate.
It's so smart to focus on STEM, on as our listeners who are pretty political know, on STEM careers, because it's the future. I mean, it really is. And the more that Latinas are involved in that, the more that Latinas have power in the future. Whether the right wing likes it or not, the Latina hour has come, and it's so thrilling that you are making sure that Latinas are in there front and center.
Oh, that's so kind. You know, I always said we have to focus on women because when you, in any community, when you focus on a woman and you change her economic status, everything changes for the family. And
Absolutely.
When you change that family, then you change communities. And that's what we're trying to do, is have a multiplier effect. And I'm just excited about it. And I thank you for letting me come on and share everything I'm doing.
Oh, no, it's just wonderful work. It's really brilliant. Thank you for everything that you've done and everything that you're going to continue to do. And we'll look for you on screen, and we'll pay attention to what goes on off screen. I assume that people can go to your website and find out more about all your projects.
Yes, they can go to my Twitter, which is Eva Longoria, and it feeds everything, which is the EvaLongoriaFoundation.org. So many ways to receive information, and a lot of ways to help.
That would be very good because it's a very involved listenership, so they can help and get involved. Mucho gracias, mi hermana. Thank you so much for being with us on Women's Media Center Live.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
One last pause now here at Women's Media Center Live, where I am, what a shock, Robin Morgan. But don't go anywhere because we'll be right back with some fighting words.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
And we're back again in time for Fighting Words. I'm dedicating Fighting Words this week to the memory of Maha Abu Dayer, who died just a few days ago on January 9th, 2015. She died after more than a decade battle with cancer. She was a Palestinian feminist and a great friend. She was also one of our great ones, and to lose her when she was only in her early 60s is an enormous loss. She was a lifelong activist for peace and human rights, especially women's rights. In 1991, she founded the Women's Center for Legal Aid and Counseling, WICLAC, a not-for-profit organization working in East Jerusalem, the West Bank, and Gaza to bring about a democratic Palestinian society that would be based on the principles of gender equality and social justice for all. She was also one of the co-founders of the International Women's Commission for a Just and Sustainable Israeli-Palestinian Peace. It was a courageous effort to bring Israeli, Palestinian, and other women leaders from all around the world together to work for peace. She also was a longtime board member of Equality Now. She once said, "We don't have the luxury of despair. In times of crises, we must provide hope and leadership while inspiring the next generation of young women." She was an inspiration to her own generation as well as the next one. Her wisdom, her kindness, her soft-spoken authority. Everyone leaned in to listen to Maha and respected her enormously. She gave an interview for this program, and you can hear it by going to WMClive.com and looking up the episode 20. It aired first on January 5th, 2013, almost 2 years ago. Talks about her work, talks about the kinds of law, Christian, Muslim, and rabbinical, that you had to access in order to get rights for women, even divorce rights, custody rights, all the things the center addressed. It's such a deep sadness that she emitted, along with bright humor, but there was a mourning quality about her in her gentleness. But the laughter was there too. I remember a particular dinner not long ago at Jessica Newworth's home, and Gloria was there, and I was there, and Maha and her wonderful daughter, and a number of other women, and we were talking about the intifadas, and Gloria, who has an irrepressible tendency toward puns and a tendency to channel Groucho Marx, muttered very quietly under her breath, but nonetheless everyone could hear it, "Not your fada's intifada." And I thought, oh my God, this time my friend has gone too far. We're sitting at a table with Palestinian women who've suffered greatly. This is not amusing. And before I could finish my thought, there was a loud guffaw. The very first voice laughing was Maha Abu Dayer. She is a great loss. The family and WCLAC and Donor Direct Action have established a memorial fund in honor of her, and contributions can be made online simply by going to donordirectaction.org/Maha, M-A-H-A. She was one of our great ones, yes. She was also a sister and a friend. So, shukran, Maha. Thank you. And also, bahibik ya ukhti. I love you, my sister. And that's it for today. Join us next week when we'll meet the Native woman who helped structure an award-winning tribal court system. Also here, the Speaker of the New York City Council, the first Latina ever to hold that position. And, surprise, the ERA is back. But this Equal Rights Amendment is not your mother's Oldsmobile. It's new, freshened, and needed. This program is syndicated, but if you can't find the broadcast on a radio station in your area, you can always visit us at WMClive.com for the show, plus the archive of all our previous shows, and also at iTunes worldwide, where you can stream, download, and even subscribe to the show's podcast. Also, be sure to find WMC Live on Facebook and Twitter. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Opinions expressed here do not necessarily represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. WMC President and Executive Producer of this program, Julie Burton. Senior Producer, Crystal Williams Chancellor. And our founding sponsor, Regina K. Scully. I'm Robin Morgan, your producer and host. Thank you for being with us. Do join us next week right here on Women's Media Center Live.
For the smartest talk about news, politics, sex, books, religion, race, and more, tune your radio to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan. Audacious, witty, provocative, informative, and fun. It's Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on WMClive.com. Talk radio with a brain.